Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 4 review series. And today I am going to be talking about episode 7, A Regular Guy, which I have just finished watching. And this for me, I would say, was one of the episodes of the entire fourth season, in my opinion. And this was an episode that didn't really feature a main villain. There was no saving the day or trying to avoid a near death experience. This was merely about Clark Kent trying to wrestle with this huge weight on his shoulders that he's Superman, and how he's trying to convince everyone in Smallville that he's not the Man of Steel. And of course, everybody has had their suspicions ever since Doomsday killed Superman at the beginning of season 4. Some people have already figured out that Clark Kent is Superman, but for the most part, a lot of people don't really know, but they have their suspicions. So, all throughout most of this episode was Clark trying to convince everyone that he's not Superman. And as an added bonus, we finally get an appearance from Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. And I have to say, I actually prefer this incarnation of Jimmy Olsen than the one we got in Supergirl. Nothing against that version of Supergirl. He was great, but he didn't really feel like Jimmy Olsen to me. And I never really bought into the idea that that version of Jimmy Olsen was a tall, smooth talking ladies' man. And that's not Jimmy Olsen that I know from the comic books and cartoons. The Jimmy Olsen I know is the little kid with the bow tie, the gee, Mr. Kent, hey, CK, that nerdy type of photographer who was always hanging around Lois and Clark. That's the Jimmy Olsen I know and love. We kind of got that in this episode, but a little bit different. But I really loved this Jimmy Olsen so much. He felt like Jimmy, he looked like Jimmy, he was Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal. What more could you ask for? And I thought this was very light-hearted, a lot of fun, and I love all of the Lex Luthor stuff that we have been getting for this season, and even the Doomsday stuff, which has been done to death time and time again. I love that stuff, but this was such a nice break from that doom and gloom, dark and gritty and intense stuff. We know the showdown between Superman and Lex Luthor is coming. But I thought this episode was just a nice break from all this stuff because this season, while it has been amazing, it's been really intense. So this episode was just a nice break. It was just a nice break. Go back in time, see Jimmy Olsen and Clark in flashback. It was just nice. And even back then, in those flashbacks, Clark was trying so hard to protect his secret identity at the expense of not having friends. And I thought that was very interesting because, for the most part, I always remember in Superman media, he always had friends, but he still went out and did his Superman thing. With this show, Superman and Lois, what we got here was Clark was really sacrificing himself. And I don't mean in the sense that sacrificing himself to take out Doomsday or taking himself out of the game to try and save the world. He sacrificed his own personal life just to protect his secret identity, which we can all understand and we can all appreciate. But you could really see on Clark's face he hated lying to not just Jimmy, but to everybody he knows. And you could really see throughout this episode, it was really starting to take a toll on the boys. Not so much Lois, because Lois is Lois. She can handle just about anything, but it was really starting to take a toll on everyone. And Clark realized that if we're going to have any chance of a normal life, I have to go public. Superman going public. Now, anybody who remembers back in Smallville, season 8, Clark went public. He told Lois his secret, and the whole world went to hell. Everybody was after him, and he just couldn't live a normal life. So he used the Legion ring, went back in time, reversed things, and kept it a secret. I'm so glad they didn't do that in this episode. Not to say that there won't be any consequences, because this is Superman. While Superman has always been known to do the right thing, but we know that when he does the right thing, there is going to be consequences. Now, I have been hearing rumors that we are going to be seeing Brainiac at some point, and there was a story arc that I think they did in the recent comic books where Brainiac mind wiped everyone's memories. Maybe that's what they're going to do before this season ends. I truly thought that Clark going public was going to be the last episode, or maybe the second to last episode, perhaps. I knew it was coming. I did know this was coming at some point, but I wasn't really expecting it to be this soon. I thought maybe it was going to be in the final episode, because Clark going public, everybody knows who he is, and maybe he just retires. I just thought maybe that was the way they were planning to go. But I thought the way they had Clark go out in front of a camera, tell his entire story to the entire world, and then ditch the glasses and just go fully public. Now, in most Superman media, especially in Clark's younger years, he never ever wore glasses in Smallville. He only started wearing the glasses when he moved to Metropolis and started working at the Daily Planet. That was his way of concealing his secret identity from everyone, while he's the nerdy, goofy, bumbling reporter. To the outside, he's Superman. And I loved in this episode, we essentially got flashbacks of Clark's first year as Superman, which was a lot of fun. And yes, it was lovely to see the Max Fleischer Superman costume once again. I never get tired of seeing that. That's the one thing that this show has over all Superman live action media. They showcased the iconic Max Fleischer costume, and I don't think that's something we're going to ever see again. You never know, we could see it again in future live action media, but as it stands right now, Superman and Lois did it first. To steal a quote, Simpsons did it first. But, it was nice to see that. And, Clark trying to be friends with Jimmy, but of course he doesn't want to play and get involved in certain things which might give away that he's Superman. Very enjoyable stuff, and I really loved the way Jimmy was written in this episode. He wasn't just being horrible, like, oh, why don't you just tell me, dude? Come on, you're Superman. You know what? I don't want to be your friend. Go away. He was still Clark's friend, but he just kind of more like backed off. Okay, you don't want to tell me, fine, but I know you're Superman, dude. Come on. You don't have to lie to me. Every time Superman's around, you're never here. Come on. Give it up already. And I really like that stuff. The reason why I bought into this Jimmy than the Jimmy we got in Supergirl was because when Clark Kent appeared in Supergirl season 2 and he met up with Jimmy, I just never bought into the idea that this is the iconic best friends that we know and love. Because, one, Jimmy in that universe, he looked like a basketball player or the high school jock, and a Clark was Clark. I just never bought into that dynamic. My Clark and Jimmy are a couple of nerds. That's what I know and love. Obviously, Clark is a little bit older and a little bit more mature, but he's still a bit of a goofball. But Jimmy, it's Jimmy, you know. Hey, CK, you know. I love that stuff. So I thought the way they had written Jimmy in this episode was very well done. I really liked that a lot. And, you know, the whole scene with Clark in front of the camera and just telling his whole story, you couldn't ask for a much more well written, emotional, and most important of all, heartwarming scene than that. Nothing dramatic, just Clark sitting down and telling his story. I really thought that the way that scene was going to go was he would take his glasses off in front of the camera and say, "Yes, I am Superman." That's the way I would probably have ended that episode. And I loved how we got to that point because prior to Clark going in front of the camera, we had Candace's dad coming into the cafe and essentially calling out Clark in front of everyone and says, "I know you're Superman. Just admit it. Tell everyone what I know already." And Clark, of course, puts him in his place a few seasons earlier. And we essentially got a flash moment in this episode. You know, everything stopping as soon as Candace's dad fired the bullet, Clark taking off his glasses, opening his shirt, and the bullet just ricocheting and bouncing off his skin. Definitely reminded me of The Flash, but it also reminded me a lot of Superman Returns when the gangster shot Superman in the eye and it just pinged off. I thought that was a really well done scene, and they kind of did that here as well. And he's standing there in his Superman costume, and he's looking at everyone and said, "I'm sorry that I lied to you all for so long." That for me was the most Superman moment of the entire episode. You know, he didn't just push Candace's dad out the door or threw him out the window or put him through a table. He just stood there in his full Superman suit and was completely apologetic. Great stuff. And the ending with Clark not wearing glasses anymore, going into the cafe, seeing Jimmy for the first time in a long time, and just hugged it out like two iconic pals. And wow, it was just great. The whole episode was just excellent. No Lex Luthor, no Doomsday, just Clark trying to do what he feels is the right thing. So now that Clark has gone fully public, now that everyone knows he's Superman, you've got to know Lex Luthor is going to come for Superman in a big way than he has ever done before. And I'm all for it. It's going to be absolutely off the charts. And wow, we are coming so close to the end of season 4. I'm seriously not ready for it to end, but I really, really wished we got another season. But we are really going to go out on a real high note, and I can't wait to see how it's all going to end. With Doomsday lurking in the background, we still haven't seen Milton Fine yet, aka Brainiac. Yeah, I can definitely see there's going to be some serious consequences and backlash, not to mention a huge fallout from Clark publicly going out as Superman, and now everyone knows his secret identity. But overall, this was a fantastic episode, one of the absolute best ever for season 4. And it was different, don't get me wrong, it was very different, but I loved it. I thought it was excellent. And, I hope we get to see Jimmy again. I've got a feeling we will. I think we'll probably see him maybe in the next episode. Who knows? But I want to see more of Jimmy. He was awesome in this episode. Bear in mind, he was only in most of it in flashback, and he actually did show up at the end. But yeah, he was great to see and very well written as well. He definitely felt more Jimmy than the Supergirl incarnation of Jimmy. So, great episode, great ending, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we go from here. So, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What do you guys think about episode 7? Did you enjoy it? How do you feel about Clark going public as Superman? Do you think he did the right thing? Do you think there's going to be some backlash, some consequences from this move? What's Lex Luthor's reaction going to be now that he knows that Clark has fully gone public as Superman? What tricks will he have up his sleeve? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 4 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 8, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing, especially with this huge game-changing moment that has taken place now. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the aftermath is going to be addressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all goes down. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.